Yeah, I can't smoke cigars. I'm training for a triathlon. I can't even be around like pot smoke. Like they were smoking pot in the. I say pot. What am I fucking 80? Fucking in the green room at the store.
Call it grass. I think the kids are calling it grass.
They were smoking grass.
Wacky tobacco.
This could not be a better time to do a podcast with you.
Why?
Last night I got like a hair up my ass, and I think it's because I traveled so much for so long. And I had such cool experiences. In a weird way, you mourn them when you stop traveling that like exotically. You mourn them, and so I was supposed to go to the Grand Canyon with my kids, and it all fell apart, and no one can do anything, and I have to spend money I have to fly a certain amount of miles on American. So I was like,
get your status.
Yeah, to get my status.
I'm obsessed with it, and this has got to be my last year going for it, because I've really like put my relationship. I'm taking exotic gigs all over the world just because I want to hit that diamond level again,
dude. So I did my year out, and like I booked out my year, and I was like, I'm gonna be short. I need one big, like 6,000 mile trip, like a big trip. And so I looked it up. I've been talking about this nonstop, and so here are my options. I can go Asia, or I can go Europe, or I can go South America. I can go Shanghai, Hong Kong, Beijing, Tokyo. Those are the 4 Asian choices. I can go Buenos Aires. I can go Chile. I can go anywhere up north, but it won't give me I need to go either to Chile or Buenos Aires, or I can go Europe. I can go Madrid, Frankfurt, Milan, Rome. Or here's the problem with Lisbon is I got to fly. That's 2 flights. So these are direct flights out of LAX. Actually, and Dallas a little bit. So where would you go in Asia?
Well, man,
you've covered Asia extensively.
Yeah. So next week I'm going back to Mongolia. I don't know if we talked about Mongolia the last time I was here.
Tell me everything.
So I'm doing Mongolia. Here I brought my little book. I did Mongolia last October, and it was in the 30s. It was freezing, and I read Genghis Khan's biography before I went there, and so I was really like, it's a fascinating culture, and nobody goes to Mongolia.
Yeah, I don't even know where Mongolia is.
It's between China and Russia.
Okay.
And I found it such a fascinating place, and the local comedians were such great guys. I wanted to see it in summer. So I'm going to go back August 22nd. I've got a gig in Ulaanbaatar. That's the capital city. And then I got a gig in Beijing on August 24th.
Have you been to Beijing before?
Yeah, many times.
So wait,
and then I'm going to Shanghai on August 25th.
Okay,
Shanghai,
okay, perfect.
Shanghai,
all right, let's compare Beijing and Shanghai.
Shanghai is my favorite city in Asia.
Okay, why?
So Hong Kong.
Realize you are forming the view, because I think everyone's like me. I've traveled a ton.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like Beijing or Shanghai, for me that's like fucking, like it's like
going to the moon.
It's like Charlotte or Atlanta. Like I don't really know much about. It's almost 2 words that I go, yeah. I bet they all have the exact same thing. Like I couldn't even find. Like I was looking at top 10 things to do in Beijing, top 10 things to do in Shanghai. And I couldn't tell the difference other than the Great Wall of China. Okay,
have you been to the Great Wall?
No.
Okay, so I've been to the Great Wall twice. And that's the one thing that Beijing has over Shanghai. So like as a comedian performing, Hong Kong is mostly like people in the banking industry. And then Beijing is people that work for governments and different embassies that'll come to your show. Shanghai, whenever I go to Shanghai, I always meet like French journalists, Swiss filmmakers, Japanese animation people, like really creative people are living in Shanghai.
Really?
And it's supposed to be like Harlem was in the 30s now as far as jazz. I know a lot of like black American jazz musicians who are living in Shanghai now. So like,
you're selling me on Shanghai
for entertainment and stuff
right now.
And Shanghai is really sexy.
Yeah.
The French concession neighborhood is these tree-lined boulevards, and that's where like your designer shops and art galleries. There's a place there that makes these incredible action figures, and they'll do like NBA guys. They'll do like Che Guevara, and the action figures are like $200 or $300 each. They're like, I forget the name of it. It's incredible, but Beijing, I think the old neighborhoods are called hudongs. Those are really fascinating. But the Great Wall of China is so cool, and I've been there twice. There's 3 sections of the Great Wall you can go to as a tourist, and only one of them has this slide. So you take like a what is it, like a ski lift up to the
gondola?
top. Gondola, thank you. But there's only one section where you can go as a tourist, and it's this slide. I filmed it. It's on YouTube. If you type in YouTube, Tom Rhodes magnificent slide.
I'm Googling it right now.
I filmed the entire thing, and I'm telling you, I enjoy this slide more than I enjoy the Great Wall of China. I mean, the Great Wall of China is pretty awesome. It's great to go there. I've been there in winter and in summer. But like that's the one thing I'm going to do when I'm in Beijing. The Forbidden City's okay. It's not. There's really nothing in there to see.
Well, what is it called? Tom Rhodes what?
Magnificent Slide.
How do you spell magnificent?
Magnificent. Magnificent.
By the way, what's interesting about you is if you type in Tom Rhodes magnificent, a lot of things come up before the slide. All right.
You got it?
This. Yeah. Whoa, what are you on?
It's like a little plastic slide, and you have a stick between your legs, and if you pull it towards you, it goes fast, and if you push it forward, it goes fast. If you pull it backwards, it goes slow.
Oh, this is like one of those fucking insane mountain slides.
Yeah, and there's no safety precautions in China.
You could fly off the side of this.
So you can fly off the side. So there's a Chinese soldier. There's a few Chinese soldiers positioned along the way, and they're telling you slow down as you go around the big turns.
Really?
Because they've obviously had people fly off the sides. Isn't that cool?
This is beautiful. So is Beijing more... God, this is a long... So this is a 3-minute slide.
Yeah,
is
I filmed it from, and that's the. So imagine the explorers that took them months to go up there and months to go down, and you can slide down it in 3 minutes.
So if Singapore is more like describe it, or not Singapore, Shanghai and Beijing. What American cities are they similar to?
Nothing. You can't compare them. Yeah, and then the thing that China has over us now is the skyscrapers. They've gone crazy with the design of sky. You go to these different cities in China and you're like, wow.
Really? It's
mind-blowing what they're... And Shanghai is skyscraper city. The Bund is the river curve where there's that magnificent city shot. You've seen it.
I definitely have seen it.
You've seen the skyline of shade. And that's... So there's one thing you have to be precautious over... There's a pedestrian shopping street that goes right into the Bund in Shanghai, and I fell for this about 7 or 8 years ago. These people come up to me. It was a guy and 2 women. They're, I'd say, late 20s. Hi, how are you? Are you from the United States? Sometimes, like years ago, I remember being in Beijing right before the Beijing Olympics, like a year before. People would come up to you in Beijing wanting to practice their English.
Yeah.
And so, lovely day we're having, isn't it? Where are you from? And, you can tell. But these people, their English was really good. Are you from the United States? Yes. They go, Obama. We love Obama. Okay. And they go, we're going to a cultural tea exhibition. Would you like to go with us? And I said, no. I got to meet a friend for dinner, but thanks. And I'm like, blowing them off. I got my, when you're a traveler, you don't want to get suckered into anything. And the guy, he puts his hand on his heart and he goes, please, come with us. We'll make friends. And that's when the hook went into the mouth. That's when he got me. Because the reason I travel is to make friends.
Yeah.
So I thought, tea exhibition, how difficult or how long is this going to be and how expensive could it be? So I go with them, and it was this little chumpy tea exhibition in this little place down a side street. And like the woman explains, black tea, you'll never get cancer, and green tea is good for digestion, and all these different things, and then it's over. And then they brought me the bill for $150. And number one, you realize, hey, what a good deal Starbucks is.
Yeah.
When you get a $150 T-bill. And I knew that I had been swindled fair and square.
Yeah.
And then that night at my show in Shanghai, once I spoke the words cultural tea exhibition, everybody in the audience went, "No!
For real.
You didn't." It's this thing, and I don't know why the cops there don't crack down on this, because there's screwing visitors, and like half the people in the audience had fallen for it. And one guy told me, "Oh, you know what? I bet they gave you a break because I was charged $300." And then another guy told me he jumped out of a window to get away from paying the bill. Really? And then somebody told me, they go, "Did they mark you?" I go, "What do you mean? Did they mark me? Did they give you the little red Chinese dangly thing? It looks like the thing you'd have on the top of a graduation cap, but it's red, like tassels."
Yeah.
I go, "Yeah, they did. Put it on my backpack." The guy go, "Here's a gift from us for our friendship." And he tied it on my backpack. That's so when you go back out to the pedestrian walking street, they know that you've already been taken. The other, they know the other people who are out there getting people to do this know that they've already got you. So that's Shanghai. That's the one thing you need to be careful of in Shanghai.
I would almost, if that happened to me in Shanghai, I'd almost go through with it and film it just to get everyone like.
That's why I was so angry the next day. I went back with my camera and I was filming, and then they won't talk to you if you got a camera. Yeah, they know it's evidence.
So what's
the street food in Shanghai is amazing.
Street food is better in Shanghai than Beijing. Is Beijing
Beijing has got there's a street in Beijing that is everything fried on a stick. From
Jesus, Tom, you're selling me hard.
But no, they got like disgusting things. The first time I went to Beijing, I made a YouTube video. I think that's just on the regular Beijing video. And I was with this British comedian who was a portly fellow who was eating everything.
Who? Andre Vincent?
Marcus Brigstock. Yeah. So he was, they had fried snake, they had fried maggot, all this stuff. I tried the fried scorpion. But I didn't get any freakier than that.
Yeah.
But they also have nice things like, strawberries dipped in chocolate and things like that. There's this one street where it's all this stuff fried on a stick. But Shanghai, the people who run the Kung Fu Comedy Club, that's the club really in Shanghai? Sweet. There's two there. There's a Shanghai.
I can definitely go do a spot there.
Shanghai Comedy Club, and then there's the Kung Fu Comedy Club. And there's a really lovely gay American fellow who gives street food tours of Shanghai, and it's great. There's one street that Anthony Bourdain went to, and this guy had also taken me to, and it's crawfish. It's all crawfish on this one street
crawfish.
that they're famous for in Shanghai. So I mean, it's a toss up for where you would go.
I would love to see the Great Wall of China.
The Great Wall of China is so cool. Any time of year, you do have people there trying to sell you trinkets and things that you got to watch out for. But the slide is incredible. I think.
How far out of Beijing is Great Wall of China?
An hour.
Okay, so you'd have to take a bus out there.
You can take a taxi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Des Bishop was living in.
Des Bishop's black guy. I know him.
No, white guy. He's Irish.
Oh, I know Des
from
Bishop.
New York City.
I'm thinking of someone else.
And then he wanted to perform comedy in Mandarin, so he was over there for like a year or two living, and we took a taxi directly there, and it was probably like $20-$40, and the guy waited for us.
God, what?
So it's worth it.
Does the Shanghai comedy clubs, do they go every night?
No.
I would love to get up and do stand up. If I'm out there, I'd love to do stand up one night. But
I'll take care of you. I can get you in touch with both clubs, and you could do either.
I want to go.
They'd be thrilled to have you, I'm sure.
I haven't performed. I haven't traveled. Why take that back?
You haven't performed in Asia?
I've performed in Singapore.
Yeah, because there's so many great.
Singapore was awesome. Singapore was really great.
I did not like Singapore when I first went there.
Really?
I found it too clean and soulless.
It was very clean.
But then,
I like that.
Well, but I'll tell you. So then the next time I went, I was coming from Cambodia, where there's like so many people missing limbs and street children begging.
Yeah.
And there's no beggars and there's no homeless people in Singapore. They don't allow it.
No, not
So
at
the
all.
second time I went to Singapore, I loved it because it was clean and it was soulless.
Yeah. Yeah, Singapore is...
So it depends on your perspective.
Unless you go to the 4 floors of horrors.
No, that's you know what, it's like what certain cities are known for, like Amsterdam for prostitution and drugs is such a small
Portion of
it.
What
Like,
makes the city great.
I actually have had Singaporeans show me around, and to the street food in Singapore can't be beat. I would fly there for the black pepper crab. I think I've told you about the black pepper.
No.
Black pepper crab is better than cocaine. Malaysia also does it. But the black pepper crab is one of my favorite things on the planet Earth. They also do chili crab, which is a little sweeter.
I didn't have I had a really hard time finding food there because I was by myself.
Yeah.
And so I was literally
Should've
just
talked to
walking in, just going, I was like, all right, I'll take what is like $50 and spend $50 on a bunch of different shit, take it over and just eat, just go through and sample stuff. But I got to be honest with you, I felt like I didn't really get out of my comfort zone food wise, and I definitely didn't have the black pepper crab.
Well, and you know what, you always find you have to go to a city a few times. Like the first time I went to Shanghai, I didn't like it. I was like, I had heard so much about the nightlife, and like I was in and out to do a gig, and I was like, it was no big deal.
Really?
I've since been back there like 7 or 8 times and gotten to know it deeper, and I love it. Shanghai is also, Singapore is similar. I've had locals take me to get black pepper crab, and the last time I was there in April, I stayed in this neighborhood I never even knew existed, and I've been to Singapore probably like 6 or 7 times. The Sultan Mosque is this Muslim neighborhood. So there's all this Malaysian food. And Malaysian food, there's this thing called murtabak. And it's like roti bread, and it's minced lamb and egg and red onions chopped up in it. And they give this kind of curry dipping sauce with it. And when I'm in Singapore and Malaysia, I have it for breakfast every day.
Really?
I don't even think it's a breakfast item, but it's like so good.
That's like someone going, dude, have you had pizza? I eat it for breakfast.
Exactly. Yeah. But this neighborhood in Singapore, I stayed at a hotel called the Sultan, which is in the neighborhood, and Singapore is really small and easy to get around.
I liked Singapore a lot. I'm going to go back. I'm doing Australian run, I think
Again, yeah.
I'm going to do another Australian run, and I'm going to tag Singapore onto it. Because Singapore was just a really fun, it was a fun way to get to Perth, meaning like everything else, I feel like Perth gets left out, and I love Perth. I love Perth.
Perth is, I wrote a story about it for years ago. The Huffington Post asked me to be a travel writer. I don't do it anymore. Because it was like I was putting like all this energy into it, and they don't pay any money.
Yeah.
But I wrote a piece on how much I loved Perth and all the great things that there are to do there. And the funny thing about Perth is that people in Perth think it sucks there. They think they're not that thrilled about it.
Yeah.
And everyone, like I asked a taxi driver in Perth, what should I see while I'm in Perth? And he said, the airport, go to Sydney.
Yeah.
And I put that in my story. So the Western Australian newspaper, which is the newspaper of Perth, reprinted my story. On the left side of the paper, and on the right side, they had 5 people commenting on what I had written, and they were all saying, yeah, we should be more upbeat when we talk to foreigners.
That's what everyone when I went to Perth, everyone said, why did you come to Perth?
They all have low self-esteem about it.
And I was like, I love it.
It's the San Diego of Australia. It's 82 degrees year-round weather.
Yeah.
They've got one of the, I think it's Victoria Park, one of the nicest parks. It's like Vancouver has this big, beautiful natural park in the center of the city.
Yeah.
Perth has that. And then right next door to there, Fremantle is the little town next door. It is where Bon Scott is from. I went to Bon Scott's grave, put flowers on his grave, and there's I think it's the best beer in Australia. It's called Little Creatures, And at the Little Creatures Brewery, they've got a lovely restaurant that did lamb and feta arugula pizza. Yeah.
I loved Australia. I was thinking about for a day just flying to Sydney. I really love Sydney.
Sydney's one of my favorite cities in the world.
Easily one of my favorite cities in the world.
Have you done the comedy? No, you did the Enmore Theater, right?
Yeah, I did Enmore, and then I did 2 shows at Sydney Opera House. But it was like
nice.
It was part of something. It wasn't just for
the Sydney Comedy Festival.
No, maybe it was just for laughs. Do they do?
Oh
one?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so I did Enmore, and then I did those 2. Sydney Opera House. I had a really great show one show, and then the next show was like all right. But I loved Australia. I had more fun in Australia than I've probably had anywhere else. I think the city I saw most of was probably Brisbane.
Also a great city.
Brisbane was fucking. I walked.
There's
around
all these.
a lot
It's really hilly.
Yeah.
They have great seafood, and they're called worker cottages. All the worker cottages have got these these wonderful porches. You know, I'm from the South, like you. We like porches.
Yeah, I liked. There was something really familiar with Australia. Something that made me feel like I could have lived here.
Well, you know what I think? They're so far removed. In my opinion, I think they took the best of English culture and the best of American culture, and kind of left out a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. Now, why do you feel like you've traveled more in Asia than anywhere else, or more in Europe than anywhere else?
No, definitely Europe.
Really?
But I've just through the years I've done everywhere in Asia. You know?
Yeah. What? That's
like I did this Magner's Comedy Festival in April, and it was Bangkok, Singapore, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and Manila. That was interesting.
What's Manila like?
Manila is a shithole, and it is to be avoided. Right next to my hotel was a bar, and it had neon sign. It said, like, where the club that I played was like, I guess kind of this entertainment area, and there was a bar a block from the club, and it said midget boxing. And me and the other, I was with Craig Campbell, this Canadian comedian who lives in London, and this South African black female comedian named Tinjui. And it was we were a great team for this international festival.
That's the cool thing about that we don't have in the States is you do team up in England, and the international comics team up and go on fun runs together that we just don't do here. Like for us, it's you and another guy doing Omaha. And then you're just in Omaha. You don't do anything crazy. You don't do anything fun. You don't do anything sightsee. You just go into Omaha. You drink at the club late. You go back to the hotel. You wake up. You do lunch. Maybe you see a movie. But that's it.
I'll tell you what Omaha's great for. Used vinyl records.
Really?
Yeah. They got great vinyl record shops.
Do you just disprove me immediately? Like, Bert, alcoholics definitely do that, but regular people
I don't drink.
Shit.
So, and I'm really into vinyl records. And Omaha is one of my favorite places to go because you can find great stuff there for reasonable prices.
Yeah.
And good ice cream. But so me and the other comedians in Manila we were like, oh, midget boxing, let's go check this out. And it was sad, and it was gimmicky.
Yeah.
And I told the owner, I said, in the rest of the world we call them little people now. And he said, I know, it's too expensive to change the neon sign. And he didn't give a shit. And then walking back from the club after the show, this guy comes up to me on the street. He's wearing a New York Yankees baseball hat. He said, excuse me, brother, I'm living on the street. Can you spare some money? And his English was incredible. I said, brother, are you American? He said, no. I lived in Los Angeles for many years. I go, your English is amazing. How did you end up on the street in Manila? He was a Filipino. And he said, well, I was living in Los Angeles for many years with this Filipino woman. And I came home one day and I caught her in bed with another man. And I grabbed my baseball bat and I beat the man very severely, and I was put in jail for a year, and then I was deported back to the Philippines, and I grabbed him by his elbow, and I said, "Do you still like baseball?" He goes, "Of course. How are the Yankees doing?" I don't know. I don't follow the statistics.
That's crazy. So if you had one trip in all of Asia, where would you go?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, it's
one trip.
You know what? And it's the worst thing people can do. Like when they go to Europe, they'll go there like one trip in their life, and they'll try and do 2 days in Paris, 2 days in Rome. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You got to focus on one thing at a time.
Okay, then let's start this way. What's the perfect length of a trip? Meaning land, feet in country, on a plane out. What's the perfect length?
I mean, 3 to 5 days if you're, if you got a job. And
so let's say 4 days. You leave on a Thursday, you get there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you come home on Monday.
Like Singapore is great. There's always events going on in Singapore. When I was drinking Beer Fest, and it's great. It's outdoors, and they got all these cover bands, and there's beer tents from all over the world. They did comedy, which was difficult in a tent with music all around.
Yeah. But
I was still drinking at the time. That's a fun festival. When I was in Singapore in April, the jazz festival was going on, and I got to see Lauryn Hill perform.
Really?
Yeah. But so I've been to Vietnam a few times. I love Hanoi.
I love Vietnam.
I really love Vietnam.
I really do.
My father flew helicopters there and was shot down.
You have a special connection with Vietnam.
Because my dad fought in the war and was shot down and survived, and his helicopter buddies was everything to him. So I read all these books my whole life about Vietnam. I saw every movie. And then in 95, I did this Comedy Central special, Viva Vietnam, where I did like a travel log where I went to Vietnam when it first opened for Americans. So I went back in 2014. The guy who runs the gig in Hanoi, this English guy, and he's like a real man's man. He's not like girly and soft-handed like most British guys you meet. He's like the Indiana Jones of England, and he does the comedy at his club in Hanoi. He also gives motorcycle tours of the north of Vietnam.
Okay, I'm in on that.
I've been afraid of motorcycles my whole life.
Oh, see, that was one of my ideas, was go to Anchorage, talk to Shaylee, Greg, and find out, go to Anchorage and do a run on a motorcycle up into the off the grid, camp for 2 nights, drive back in at the airport and bounce. That was another one of my ideas.
Well, think about North Vietnam, and this guy,
dude,
I can hook you up. He'd be thrilled to have you.
Ari and I were dead seriously thinking about taking the Ho Chi Minh Trail on motorcycle. We were dead serious about it.
Okay, I mean that would be cool.
Yeah.
So I had a wreck on a dirt bike when I was 14 in Florida. So I was afraid of motorcycles my whole life. When I was doing the travel TV show for Dutch television, I filmed a highlight on Peru, and we went to the Nazca lines, and this guy let me ride his motorcycle around the Nazca lines. So I got over my fear. And then after I did Hanoi in 2014, I liked this guy so much, I'm like, the next time I come, I want to go on this motorcycle trip with him. So my wife is from Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Her brother teaches motorcycle lessons. So last summer, I took motorcycle lessons with him for an afternoon. So when I went back to Hanoi, this is the 4th time I've been on a motorcycle in my life. We go, and we're 45 miles. The video is actually on my Instagram. The guy started filming me right before I wrecked.
Oh my God.
So we're 45 miles north of Hanoi, and this going up this little windy mountain road, and my wheel got too close to the edge, and it was dusty, and the bike went out right from underneath me, and my head hit the street. Thank God I was wearing a helmet. And the only thing that happened was I scraped the skin off my elbow. And we were like 10 minutes from...
You have video of that?
The guy he just started filming me right before...
I'm going to your Instagram right now.
The guy just started filming me right before I wrecked.
We've got to get computers in here like Rogan's got so we can go, pull it up, Jamie. Shut the fuck up.
So I was actually thinking... So 10 minutes later, we're up in the village. Fortunately, I wasn't seriously injured. Nothing was hurt. We were in a little medical hut. 10 minutes later, the guy cleans my wound. I had no problem. But the drive up there, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to be my new life. I'm going to start going on motorcycle adventures.
Jesus, yeah.
And then, do you have it?
No, I don't know. I'm looking for it. I'm trying to see anything on a motorcycle.
Here, I'll pull it up for you.
Here's a picture of you and Marin.
Yeah, you
at a soccer game.
You got to go deep.
Oh.
Yeah, because it was in April. There's so much to see in Asia. I love Vietnam. Thailand is amazing. I mean,
you found it? Jesus.
You got it? Yeah, that's it. Boom. Good work. Yeah, it's like 30 seconds long. But I'm really happy that I survived this motorcycle crash. My dad's survived this helicopter crash in Vietnam.
Oh, here's where it's got to be happening.
It's coming up.
It's got to. I can. By the way, I'm as equally as confident on a motorcycle as you are. No. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit. You went over the handlebars.
No, I hit the no.
It looks like you went flying over the handlebars, like.
No, yeah, the bike slid out from under me, and I may have. I don't,
God, thank God you had a helmet on.
Yeah, thank God I had a helmet on. And then after I wrecked, I was thinking, I'm never riding another motorcycle as long as I.
God dang. And you have to, because people are coming at you on the other side of the road.
Well, what you don't see were these big trucks that were coming around these turns.
Whoa. Jesus Christ.
And then driving back.
How does this only have 875 views? You wrecked on a fucking motorcycle.
Yeah, and then going back, people in Vietnam don't recognize, like, traffic lights are just suggestions.
Oh my God.
There were these long straightaways, and I'm like I can't wait to get back to Hanoi and get off this motorcycle. And then teenagers on mopeds would just come ripping across, or like trucks from the other side would just do U-turns right in front of you.
Oh,
there was like loads of times I had to slam on the brakes and almost had other wrecks.
We rode motorcycles in Hanoi through traffic. That was one of the things we thought would be fun and
exciting. Driving on Hanoi is
it really
fun.
Is invigorating. But there's the park where John McCain, the park where he landed, I think, and it's a big square, right?
Well, no, he landed in a lake.
In a park, right?
Yeah, there's a park around
There's like roads around it. Well, as soon as I got to any straightaway, I would open this motorcycle up, like almost like get me away from this shit, because it is. Literally, you have to be like I've ridden motorcycles a lot. And so when you ride a motorcycle, the one thing that's cool is that you are dialed in to the moment. It's almost like riding a roller coaster.
You can't stray. You can't wander your mind.
Your focus is the guy in front of me, this guy coming up to the left. You're really in the moment. It's really kind of zen, because you're not thinking about bills or taxes or anything like that. You're thinking about traffic and what's going on. In Hanoi, it's times 10 because there are people, you're like, is this guy pickpocketing me? Like, Jesus Christ, on a motorcycle? The car in front of me is just cutting over 9 lanes?
Yeah.
Like, there's no stop sign. We're not stopping for this?
Yeah.
Like, it really was.
That's the thing. People cutting over 9 lanes, or someone coming from the other direction just decides to make a U-turn in front of you, and they see you.
Yeah.
They just don't give a fuck about it.
Is that all of Asia? That's not Japan, right?
No, Japan. Oh, and we need to talk about Tokyo. If you're thinking about,
I'm thinking about Tokyo.
Yeah,
I've been to Tokyo. I've been to Tokyo once. My favorite part of Tokyo. This is going to sound so fucking sad. My favorite part of Tokyo is the airport, because they have those hotels in the airport that are fucking amazing, and you can just go into the airport. Like, you fly into Tokyo if you're doing a layover, like to Vietnam or to Singapore, and those airport hotel rooms. I've never had a better night's sleep. There's no windows. It's a box. It's got a shower in it. Oh my God. They've got one in Dallas Airport that I go in. Like, if I have more than a 30-minute layover, I'll go in and get one of those hotel rooms. It's like it's kind of more like a study, and I'll just pass out hard. That's the best thing about Dallas Airport. It's in Terminal A, I think.
I don't know. Oh, but so
Tokyo, yeah.
But the last thing I want to say about Hanoi, that lake where John McCain was shot down in.
Yeah.
And imagine, it's the height of the Vietnam War. The soldiers and the townspeople surrounded the lake. They pulled him out of the lake, and they beat and kicked him all the way to the Hanoi Hilton, where he was in prison and he was tortured. That lake where John McCain landed in the middle of Hanoi, you can now rent swan paddle boats.
Wait, hold on. The Hanoi Hilton.
That was the nickname the POWs gave
was
it.
that inside Hanoi?
Yeah, in the city.
I think is that something I would have seen?
It's a historic landmark now. It was the prison.
That's where they took him from there to there.
He marched him through the town, and like everyone kicked and beat him.
Imagine.
And it's such a harrowing story. The guy is definitely a true American hero, and what he survived. And then he was being tortured, and they were going to let him out, and he chose to stay with his men. You know, he could have gotten out like 2 years earlier than he did.
We don't have whatever men were made of back then. We don't have, like, we just don't. I think that's been it kind of farmed out of us in a weird way. Like the idea that you would, how many Americans do you think would go, no, I stay with my men, as opposed to I get my phone back? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I that restaurant where Anthony Bourdain and Obama ate at is quite delicious. If you ever go to Hanoi, yeah.
What did you think about when you heard about Bourdain's suicide?
You know what? He was one of my heroes. I don't think there will ever be a better travel show.
No.
Ever. And me as a traveler, I got so many things from, like Hanoi. Oh my God, I'm going to go check out that restaurant. In Malaysia, there's different places around the world that, he taught me great places to go to and things to do and everything. And I absolutely worshipped Anthony Bourdain. And then after he died, you read that the thing that it was all the time away from loved ones and time spent alone in hotel rooms that fucking ate him up. And I'm thinking, well, that's the life of a comedian.
Yeah,
but he was doing it on a 5-star level in the nicest hotels, eating the nicest restaurants. Comedians have to do that, staying at fucking Motel 8 on a highway exit.
Yeah, a microtel.
Yeah, I mean it's
play Des Moines. See how enjoyable that hotel is. Like,
which
nothing
one?
Against Des Moines, but the one right by the bar and right across the street from the Arby's. Did you ever? There's a microtel in Des Moines that is just depressing. I haven't played Des Moines in a while. I used to love playing that club, but I think the financials of it only seats like 260 maybe.
Yeah.
And there's no press. Press is dead in Des Moines. Doesn't happen anymore out there. So you couldn't go, if you were short on tickets, you couldn't go in and sell out the place by doing press. It had to be word of mouth. And certain places like, and I don't mean negatively, but there's certain places in the country where the internet just isn't as popular. Like Alabama, the internet is not as popular as it is in California or New York. It just isn't. My wife's dad sold his company, or sold his business. Is like he has a garage, and he won't sell them the internet because the place has internet. He said, no, don't worry. I'll take care of that. I'll keep paying the internet because I don't want you to lose it. If you miss a payment, I'm afraid they'll lose it, and then you got to get in line to get internet again. So not just everyone has the internet out in Alabama.
Huh.
It's like it's first come, first serve, and then you got to wait in line for it. And by the way, that's very rural Alabama or Georgia, very rural parts. But it's just not, it's not. I mean, we go out there, we go to Alabama once a year, and I am just off my phone for a week because it just doesn't. I don't get a signal out there.
That's nice. I'm looking forward to going to Mongolia next week, and
is it going to be
I'm going to sleep in no. It's summer there,
yeah.
So the comedians are going to take me out into the country, and I'm going to sleep in a gur. For some reason, Americans think they're called yurts, but it's a gur. Those little white round tents.
The ones that you'd see in those, not the ones that it's like an erector set where they go and then they wrap it and then put the roof on.
You'd know it if you saw it. They're round and they're white.
I've stayed in a yurt before, and there's a show I love called is it Yurt Life?
But I read Genghis Khan.
Love Yurts. Yeah, Love Yurts is a show I watched.
Oh, okay.
Wait, did you see they had an exhibit recently here in Hollywood?
I went. It's at the Ronald Reagan Museum.
Is it still going on? It's done.
Yeah, it's still going on, I think.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it's great. The Mongolians gave us pants, ice cream, and the word hooray. Ancient Mongolians would end... I'm full of knowledge nuggets, baby. I don't know why All Things Comedy doesn't get behind this. They would end prayers and celebrations by cheering or saying hurree, H-U-R-E-E-H. And Europeans took that and made it hooray. Hooray is my favorite word in the English language. Hooray!
Hooray!
And it comes from ancient Mongolia. I had a great opening in Mongolia. Apparently everyone in the world is somehow related to Genghis Khan. So I'm just here to visit family. Hello, cousins. And I read Genghis Khan's biography before I came to Mongolia. And under Genghis Khan's rule, no individual was ever held responsible for a mistake or an error. It was the community's fault as a whole. So if this show doesn't go well tonight, it's all of our fault. And then from reading Genghis Khan's biography, I learned as a comedian performing in Mongolia, you never give up on a joke, never give up on a story. And if that doesn't work, you can always put aristocrats and noblemen into catapults and shoot them against the palace walls, because that never fails to make the Mongolians laugh. They were some real cruel motherfuckers.
Holy shit.
But civilized in a way. He had absolute religious tolerance, that you could be Jewish or Muslim or whatever. Genghis Khan had no problem with people having their own religions. He just wanted total
control.
Just as long as you obeyed him, and if you didn't, they were pretty nasty.
I was obsessed with Hardcore History. Do you ever listen to Hardcore History?
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned Mongolia, and everybody's like, "Have you heard Hardcore?"
Yeah.
No, I read books on my own.
You know, there's so few people that do that.
I listened to his on Caravaggio
II?
or something a few years ago, and I thought it was okay, because I'm like a big Caravaggio freak.
I don't know who Caravaggio is.
Italian painter.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, if you go to Rome, you got to see the Caravaggio stuff. So, I mean, I get off on reading books and sorting out my own knowledge. Was this part of you in high school? It evolved.
No, but like, where was the evolution? Like I when I think of you as younger and Florida, I think regular. And then when I first met you, I felt like almost like you had been through the Hollywood ringer, and you were like, I don't know if that's like, I don't know, like in a real like peaceful, noble way. Like, I don't know if that's what I'm here for. And then I knew you moved to Amsterdam, and that's where I met you, out in Amsterdam. But like, when did the transformation come? Did it come when you first moved out to LA?
What, as far as like reading and knowledge and stuff?
No, just developing into almost like a global personality, a global, like, bigger than fucking a Popka. You know what I mean?
Oviedo,
that's it. Yeah.
Oviedo. The first love of my adult life was with a Parisian woman, Nathalie. We lived in San Francisco for 7 years. So she turned me on to French writers, Voltaire and Maupassant.
Really?
And Veuve Clicquot champagne and all these other great things that civilized humans should be into. I think San Francisco really kind of opened me up to the world and culture. And you know, it's funny, man. I was just back in San Francisco last weekend, where I lived, and Natalie and I are still really good friends. We lived on Alamo Square Park, and on Fulton and Pierce, and then a block over is Divisadero. And this was a real black neighborhood when I lived there. There were these militant shops that sold Malcolm X speeches on cassette.
What year is this?
We moved there in 91, and lived there till 96. She bought the apartment that we lived in 97 for $350,000, and she's one of the happiest people I know. It's that place is worth millions now. But so Divisadero is now all white tech I mean, not just white kids, but just little nerdy, well-heeled tech kids.
Yeah.
And all these black militant shops are gone. And the Church of John Coltrane, the John Coltrane Church, the official name was the African Orthodox Church of St. John Coltrane. It was a storefront church. I would go there on Sundays, and it was the very first place I ever saw a picture of a black Jesus. And this place was so cool. The preacher rarely spoke. He just played saxophone. His wife played like stand-up bass, and on all the pews were musical instruments. And it would start at like 3 p.m, and they would jam for like 3 hours. It would go to like 6, sometimes 7. And everyone was encouraged to pick up an instrument and play, because we are all a part of the music. Isn't that beautiful?
That's great.
So I went to my old neighborhood last weekend when I was in San Francisco, and the Church of John Coltrane, where I had so many spiritual, beautiful moments in my life, is now an expensive outdoor clothing, like hiking store, like $200 shirts, $500 coats, so expensive outdoor clothing shop. And the only thing, and I was gutted to stand in the middle of this room and imagine what it used to be. And the only thing that slightly cheered me up, because that was 20 years ago, the only thing that cheered me up was to think 20 years from now, somebody's going to walk in there and go, oh man, this was once an expensive outdoor clothing store. They've gutted the soul of it.
Now this is where they put the chip in your neck?
Yeah, exactly. Or I was thinking like little portable helicopters or something. Who knows what they're going to be selling there in 20 years.
So when you went to San Francisco, you had like my awakening for me was when I moved to New York. Out of Tallahassee, I moved to New York. The very first show I saw was Stella. Do you remember Stella? Michael Ian Black, Michael Showalter, David Wayne, and it was like an improv show, but they put stand up on, and Janine Garofalo went on stage, and she was, I'm not saying she was doing poorly, but she wasn't doing great, and she started referencing her set versus something in some book, and everyone laughed, and I didn't know the name of I didn't know the book, I didn't know the reference, and I fucking, for the first time, like, you could get through Tallahassee confidently stupid, like, just with confidence. Like, just, I don't know about that. What do you guys think, huh? Yeah, right.
You went
Jesus
to school with
black.
my sister. You and my sister, I think, graduated the same year.
Yeah. And that's when I literally went and got a job at Barnes & Noble thinking I'm going to read every fucking book. And I read a ton of books, but that was the beginning. And then I think it slowed, but that was the beginning of me realizing, oh, there's more in this world than just fucking.
Well, and also I think for me was, when my sitcom ended, I had lived in New York City like a dog when I was 20, and I had always swore if I ever had any money, I'd live there with style. So when my sitcom ended, I was angry at Los Angeles, I was angry at show business, I was angry at humanity, and I just wanted to just go full hardcore back into stand-up. So I moved back to New York City. And then I also looked at my money as my NBC artist grant. So I started taking systematic trips to London. My good friend Rich Hall was living over there,
God,
and he was
so
in there.
fucking funny.
And then Greg Proops, good friend of mine, was also playing London a lot. And both of them thought that I had some intelligent comedy that would do very well there. So I took like 3 trips to London. And then Rich Hall taught me, you do the peripheral clubs first before you go to the main clubs. So you get your sea legs on stage, what it's like to perform in England and what references don't work and things like that. So I think it was that period also. And then being exposed, once I got in with London, I started doing London and all over England hardcore. And then I started playing in Paris and Berlin and Amsterdam.
And what year is that?
First time I went over there, so that was like 98, 20 years ago.
God, 98, I just gotten into stand-up.
So that's when I've been doing the international circuits for 20 years now.
The international circuits are so fucking enriching. It really makes you love comedy again.
Well, and it's not because you know what I love is you go to a different country, and then you're like, you write. It gives you ideas, and you're like, oh, I've got an observation on this, and like,
It really does.
I'll read things before I go to a country. I'll
really,
like before I went to Mongolia, I read the Genghis Khan biography. Before I went to Tokyo, I read all these books on the samurai, and my favorite, Hagakure, The Way of the Samurai, which I learned from the film Ghost Dog. You remember that movie? He quotes.
with Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, I love that movie. And there's this book that he quotes all throughout the movie. It was written in like the 1300s. It's advice for a samurai.
Really?
Yeah, it's all great stuff. A samurai should focus on death every day so that it means nothing to him. A samurai should make every decision within the space of 7 breaths. Think about that. 1, 2. 7 breaths is a long time. A samurai does not, that's a good amount of time to make a decision. A samurai does not go about rushing at things or making trouble in the world. People that make trouble in the world, I forget what it is.
7 breaths, I like that because it really goes, hey, think about what you're doing.
A samurai, you should write every letter with the thought that the recipient will display it as a hanging scroll in his house.
Fuck.
This is full of great shit.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to Shanghai.
So a big part of traveling for me is like getting off on like knowledge nuggets and learning stuff, and then I'll get jokes out of it, and then there's a lot of things like Paris is my favorite city in the world, and
my wife, full disclosure, said because I was like I should go by myself. I haven't been off by myself in a while, and then she goes, you go off by yourself every single weekend. Me and you should go somewhere. She was like, I want to go to Paris.
Take her to Paris.
I might.
I'm going there in October, and I'm doing gigs there. I wanted to film my next hour special there in October, but I talked to Bill Burr about it, and I think we might try and do it next year with hopefully with All
ATC.
Things Comedy.
Well, hopefully.
But I've got all this information on Paris. Like, I hate when Americans say they hate France or French people. I think that's the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because France gave the world the bikini and lingerie. What's not to like?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the naval blockade at the Battle of Yorktown, the United States never would have gained its independence from England. And the Marquis who arranged that naval blockade, his name was Lafayette. And that is why, when the American soldiers landed on the beaches of Normandy in World War II, the American government sent a message to the French government that simply said, Lafayette, we are here. So, most Americans don't know that. And most French people don't even know that.
Really?
So, there's just, I have so many great knowledge nugget things, and I'm obsessed with the life of Voltaire. And Voltaire and Rousseau hated each other. They would write nasty things about each other in newspapers. It was the 18th century equivalent of a Twitter bitch fight. Really? And Voltaire said, when I read Rousseau, I want to get down on all fours like an animal. It makes me want to de-evolve. He's such a poor writer. And then eventually, it's a much longer story, but eventually, back then, if the authorities didn't like what an author had written, they would burn his books. If they really didn't like it, they'd burn the author. So Voltaire had to flee Paris several times. He had a place up on the Swiss border. And then Rousseau, later in life, his arch enemy, was having problems with the Swiss authorities, and they were burning his books and considering burning him. And Voltaire said of his arch enemy, whose guts he hated thoroughly, although I disagree with what you say, I will defend with my life your right to say it. It's the famous quote.
That's so prevalent to what's going on today in society.
Seriously, yeah. So I'm ready to film my next hour special in Paris. I wanted to do it in October. There's a much more eloquent story I tell about the Voltaire of that story, but that and the other thing, and then I have a personal history with Paris. The first time I went to Paris, I was maced. These guys tried to rob me. I got a lot of great jokes and stories. I almost drowned on a French resort in Thailand while diving. I don't know if you've ever heard that story.
No, how?
Faulty equipment.
Wait, what happened? That's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Wait, start it at the beginning.
I mean, you want to hear this story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
you have time?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so so I'm living in Amsterdam. I had the late night talk show on Dutch television.
Yeah.
So if that was not fortuitous enough, when that ended, the same network let me be a presenter on a travel show. Mm-hmm. I got to do a highlight on St. Petersburg, Russia, Peru, the Champagne region of France. I got to do all these great trips. And I was still doing stand-up comedy, and I was doing a stand-up comedy tour in Asia. I did Hong Kong, Bangkok, and I had 2 weeks off before I had to go to Tokyo. So my Dutch travel show boss said that if I got certified diving while I was in Thailand on my next assignment, he would send me to the Dutch Caribbean.
Where's the Dutch Caribbean?
Aruba, Curacao.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
Okay, yeah.
Bonaire. So my Dutch travel show colleagues, they had all done Thailand to death. So they told me where to go. So I flew to the PP Islands. I flew from Bangkok to Phuket and then took a boat for 3 hours to the PP Islands. And I went to Koh Phi Phi. And I stayed on this French resort. And I'm a Francophile. Love everything about France and French culture, which is why it's unfortunate what happens to me in this story. So my diving instructor was this tattooed criminal scumbag from Montpellier, France, named Philippe. And you could smell the cocaine criminal past on this fucking guy.
Yeah.
There was a reason why he was hiding out in the islands in Thailand. He had all these homemade jailhouse tattoos up and down his arms, and he had a little rat ponytail, and the side of his head was shaved for his mask. And he had a mustard yellow Speedo that matched his mustard yellow teeth. And anybody who's ever gone diving, there's like a book that you have to study for a week before you're ever allowed to get into the water.
Yeah.
I did not have to look at this book for 1 second. I sat with a very hungover Philippe on the morning of my first dive, and he went through the hand signals with me. This means I cannot breathe. This means I have a love of air. A love of air, okay? I'm underwater. Oxygen is precious. Okay, I love air. Took me 3 days to figure out this means you are low of air. Okay. So my diving class was very small. It was a British couple from London named Mark and Mara, and I'm still very good friends with them because of what happens in this story. And they had both lived in Paris for 5 years and both spoke fluent French. My diving buddy, when you go diving, you're paired with a buddy for safety. Your diving buddy. You have to constantly be checking on your buddy. Are you okay, buddy? I'm okay, buddy. So I'm single, freshly dumped, like a year or two before, and total, lover of all things France. My diving buddy was this beautiful French woman from Bordeaux, France, named Helene.
Yeah.
And Helene worked at the ticket counter for Air France at Bordeaux International Airport. And I fell instantly in love with her. How perfect, man. We met while diving in Thailand.
Yeah.
I'm imagining my future life living in Bordeaux. I'd get a job smashing grapes with my feet. I'd pick her up at the end of the day at Bordeaux International Airport. We'd drive our shaggy dogs out to the coast and throw tennis balls for the dogs to chase and make love in the sand dunes at the sunset. Well, she spoke minimal English and I speak minimal French. And Philippe also had a crush on this woman. And his underwater flirting was outrageous. Every day he'd push me aside and take her and show her pretty plankton and whatever, and I'm by myself, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of men do this. When there's a rival for their affection, he becomes the silverback gorilla, and he feels the need to loudly insult me in front of the group every chance that he gets. So we all said what we did for a living, and I said I worked for this television show. So he keeps calling me Mr. Television. Is this good enough for you, Mr. Television? You will not get your diving certificate until you learn the buoyancy. You must learn the buoyancy, Mr. Television. Buoyancy is the perfect balance of perfect measures.
Yeah.
Professional divers never use their hands. You have an air vest with 2 buttons on it. One button increases the air, the other one decreases the air. So professional divers are always perfectly horizontal
Neutrally
with their hands
buoyant.
behind their back,
Yeah.
and very coolly go psh, psh, while amateurs flail their arms, and that's what I keep doing. And he keeps yelling at me over the buoyancy. Perfect balance of perfect measures. So every day we would have lunch on these beautiful islands, on these little alcove beaches. And one day Helene was pulling her bikini bottom out of her ass crack. And I asked Mark to ask her if she was going to the movies. She says, why? I say, because I saw you picking your seat. It's a children's joke in the United States. She had never heard it before. She thinks it's the funniest joke ever. She's laughing her ass off, and I look at Philippe, and he's fucking eye daggers at me, man. He's so pissed off that I scored a point with this woman. So on the morning that I almost died, he's being a real dick to me. And we're in our boat, and we're driving out to our diving spot, and he's yelling at me over whatever, just fucking berating me. And I finally said, listen, Philippe, I don't know what I did to make you dislike me, but I have to be honest with you. You're making me feel uncomfortable, and I have to trust you down there. And he goes, oh, Mr. American, have I hurt your feelings? Maybe the Al-Qaeda has asked me to leave your body in the ocean today. And that's when Mark stands up in the boat and goes, you are out of order, sir. And then they got into each other's faces, and then they almost fought. And it was like an hour before this explosive situation finally died down. And we all got to go diving. And in retrospect, it was Russian roulette with the bad tanks. And I got the bad one. Yeah. Did he give it to me on purpose? We will never know. Just like every other day, he pushes me aside, he takes her, I'm by myself, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, I start breathing in water. And your lungs don't want water.
Yeah.
It's day 3. I know how the equipment works. There's a button in front of your mouth. You get water in your mouth, you hit the button, and whoosh, it shoots out the side. It's not working. I get the spare respirator, the octopus. It's the same thing. It's water. And I look up, and it's like 40 feet. It's not that deep, but it's deep enough to be dangerous. And I know you can never shoot straight up to the top. That's how people really get hurt. And I looked at Philippe, and he's like, Jesus, I don't know, 20, 30 feet away from me. And I swam to this guy as quick as I could.
Oh, my God.
And I actually came in a little above him, and I had to whip him around by his ponytail to get his attention. And who would have thought that I ever would have gotten to use in my lifetime the I cannot breathe signal? And he's looking me straight in the eyes, and he really seemed to take his slow, sweet time getting me that spare respirator. And by the time it got to my mouth, I had held my breath for so long. I can't even recreate the sound that came out of me. It was the sound of someone dying, and it came out of me. And I thought this was the last moment of my life, watching bubbles go in front of this French fuck's face. But I survived, and I had to wait on the boat while they finished their dive. And I'm sitting on the boat, and the Thai boat captain was fishing, and he pulled up a fish on the boat. And the fish was flopping around on the boat, and I felt so bad for that fish because that was me just a minute ago. And then they all came in, and we all go back to the island. And I sat on the beach, and I watched the sunset. And to be honest with you, it was a very mediocre sunset. It was really hazy and overcast that day. But it was the greatest sunset I've ever seen in my life, because there's nothing like almost dying to make you really appreciate living. And then he comes over to me on the beach, and he invited me into the village to have a beer. And we're having a beer. And I know he was trying to cover his ass, you know. But he made an effort. He showed me a picture of the wife and child that he had abandoned in France. You know, he was trying. And I told him, I said, Philippe, I want you to know, today I learned the true meaning of buoyancy. Because this morning you said that shit about Al-Qaeda, and I hated your guts, and I wanted you to die. And then you saved my life, and then all is forgiven. That's the perfect balance of perfect measures. And then I go back to the resort, and Helene was sitting at the tiki bar by herself. And I went over to Helene, and I tried to make small talk with her, and I go, so, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get back to Bordeaux? And she goes, make love to my boyfriend. What's the second thing you're going to do? There is no second thing. So be careful who you almost die for, because they might not give a fuck. And now you know, I almost drowned in pee-pee.
That might be one of the best stories I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's all true.
That's fucking amazing.
So I'm going to do that on my next special.
Oh my God, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, and it's real, and it's I'm the one guy who loves everything about France and French culture, and so like I find the one asshole Frenchman who's got a bug in his ass about Americans, and like he's gonna fucking leave me in the ocean for Al-Qaeda.
That's a fucking great
so
story.
I've got a lot of great stories that are related to France and French culture and stuff, and that's why I want to do my next hour special there.
I feel like stand-up is catching up to where you are right now, because I love a good story. I love a good story, and I don't need it to be hilarious through. I just need it to be good. I just need it to be engaging and good. And with all I need is like, give me like 7 laughs in there, and I'm there for the whole thing. But what I need is an ending. You got to give me an ending.
Got to have a good ending.
Be careful who you almost die for.
Mr. Martin, my high school speech and drama teacher, taught me that. You have to how to build an argument, and that stories need to lead somewhere. Stories. I do think that stand-up is moving towards more authenticity in stories. Oh. Although I do, I still love a great written joke. Oh yeah, you know.
I love a good setup punch. I love a good joke. I started getting obsessed with what Norm was doing, which was I ran into my neighbor the other day. You know, like those. Have you ever heard that one he does?
No.
It was one of my favorite.
Like kind of false setup stories?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite Norm jokes ever. And I don't even know if it's a Norm joke or if it's him telling a street joke, but I think he wrote it. And he goes, I ran into my neighbor the other day. I said, guy said, hey man, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? Norm says, I'm a comedian. Guy says, oh. Norm says, what do you do? Guy says, I'm a professor of logic. He goes, oh. Really? What's that? And he goes, well, it's hard for me to explain. It's much easier for me to show. And the guy says, Norm, do you have a dog? And Norm goes, I do. He goes, well then, okay. So then by knowing you have a dog, I must assume that you have kids. And Norm goes, I do have kids. And he goes, well, logically, I then can assume that if you have kids, you're married to a woman. He goes, I am. Well, logically, I can assume if you're married to a woman that you're a straight white male. And Norm goes, I am. He goes, oh, and that's what I do. Norm goes, that's interesting. So the next day, Norm's at the elevator, and he runs into another neighbor. And the other neighbor says, hey, Norm, how you doing? He goes, not so bad. He goes, you meet the new neighbor? And Norm goes, I did. And he goes, what's he do? And Norm says, he's a professor of logic at the college. And the guy goes, wow, what's that? Norm says, actually, it's easier for me to show you than to explain. Norm goes, do you have a dog? The guy goes, no. And Norm goes, well, then you must be a faggot. I got obsessed with that joke. Because no one does it that way anymore. Like, that was the way it was done when, like, Buddy Hackett would do the Tonight Show.
Right.
Someone would have to write those jokes. And I missed those jokes, and I wanted to write one. I wanted to come up with one. I wanted to write one. I'm like, I'm a good comedian. I understand comedy. I understand the way to reverse engineer myself into that joke. But ultimately, I end up doing what you're doing is what my strength is, and I think you're stronger at it than I am, but just a great story is weaving a great story, leaving like the little things that you like. I had a story about running out of air in Fiji, but nowhere close to as good as yours is. Nowhere close. And by the way, mine, when I talked to the Moth and they were like, what story are we going to tell? I was like, I wanted to tell the story about running out of air scuba diving in Fiji. And the lady goes, yeah, but I already know the ending. And I went, oh, yeah, I guess you do. She's like, oh, is there something I'm not knowing? And I go, no. I go, there's no real story to it. It's just a interesting thing that happened. There's no good story.
I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get a great story out of my Vietnam motorcycle crash.
Yeah.
It happened to me.
Yeah.
But it's not like that almost drowning in Thailand story. It's because, there was a girl involved.
That's great.
And then there's a rival for the affection.
What is? I'll tell you. For me, what stands out is it's inclusive because not all of us, but a lot of people have taken scuba diving lessons, and we know the formalities. And then you give us the I'm getting the frontier scuba diving lesson out in what you call it. So that's already comedic in nature. The description of the guy.
He's hungover. He's just going through the hand signals.
Yeah, it's fucking.
This means I cannot breathe.
The accents are fucking great. He was a
cock too, man.
Oh, and then. And it does what I think all good stories do is it puts you not as the protagonist, but as a innocuous protagonist. Like you are the what's moving the story forward. But I love when a story's happen. I hate when someone tells a story and it sounds like they're bragging. Like, did I tell you about the time I did this? Oh, dude, me and my boys. That's what an amateur storyteller does, is he tells you about the coolest thing he ever did.
Right.
I think a good storyteller will tell you about something that happened to him where he goes...
humiliating stories are the best. And
we're self-deprecating. Like
stories of failure.
Yeah. I don't think I have any stories where I'm a badass in it. I think every good story that's happened to me, I'm the one that was the last to recognize it. Or I think that's what I loved about that is that you are this innocent protagonist, this almost like caught up in the Gulf Stream of events and swept into it. That's what I love.
That's a good way to describe it. The Gulf Stream. Only a Floridian can say something like that.
No shit, right?
But yeah, and it's all these I'm imagining, oh my God, I'm going to fall in love with this girl. And
it's all the things that people connect with in their lives. And DC Benny, you know DC Benny?
Oh yeah.
DC Benny is doing this thing online, which is really great. He's doing it on his Instagram, and I think it's called The Art of Storytelling. And DC is a great storyteller, really a great storyteller. And he's just pointing out some of the pitfalls of storytelling that the average person does, where you can I used to do this thing where I would say to my friends, tell me a story and I'll tell it back to you about how you should have told it. And I could, just the average person would tell me a story and I could make it a great story because I knew what you wanted to hear. But I can't do that with my own. It's really hard for me to do with my own. Like in a weird way, I think I get in my way of it. Like Segura one time told me a story and we were in the car driving out to Brea and I go, can I tell you how you should tell that story? He was like, by the way, he was really young at the time. He was like, yeah, sure. And I told him the way I thought he should tell it. And he was like, oh, that works so much better. But the problem is you're also connected with your own truths. Like so much of that story really happened to you that you can't just stretch it and make it. And then a walrus shows up, because you're like.
Yeah, no, every bit of it's true. My wife thinks that I shouldn't say on the morning that I almost died.
Nope, I like it.
She thinks that I should reveal that later, but I say no. That's I think that's a powerful,
hardcore powerful.
To let people know that. Yeah, this is where shit gets real in the story.
I would almost say,
and it's just the natural way that the story came out.
When I was 22, I got involved with the Russian mafia. Here's how it happened. It's the thing where you go, okay, I know he doesn't die, but I want to hear how he almost died. I want to hear and to remind people of that. I love that. I love that story. That's a great fucking story. I love that. I would love to hear you tell that in France too.
Yeah.
So if I take my wife to Paris, where do I stay in Paris?
You know what? There's this chain of hotels that they're like independent boutique hotels. There's like 12 of them all over Paris. And if you stay at one, you can stop at any of the others around the city. And they have happy hour, free wine, free coffee. So you can use these hotels. And it's not like a chain.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of individual boutique hotels that are owned by the same company, and you can use them as stations as you go around the city. But very important, you need to go, and I told Bill Burr about this, and he went there and lost his mind. It's the best patisserie in Paris. It's called Storer.
What's a patisserie?
Where they have fruit tarts.
Oh, yeah.
Little Napoleon.
Oh, God.
Pastries.
Yeah.
And they also do the most incredible sandwiches in Paris. And I told Bill this, and you'll thank me later. Get one to eat at that moment and buy another sandwich for later when you're walking around in Paris and go, God damn, I wish I'd have bought another one of those sandwiches. And then you will have. And I follow this place on Instagram.
What is the name of it? I'll follow him on Instagram right now.
Storer. Stohrer. This is great because you gave me the tip for Rome about the scooter Roma. Which
Annie.
Which Ashna and I did when we went to Rome on one of our Rome trips.
Yeah.
And we loved it.
Oh, it's so much fun.
And I've told a bunch of people about it. So this is the best tip I could...
Stohrer.
Storer. And the street that it's on, Rue Montagoy, is one of the best. I've been to Paris so many times in over the last 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I only learned about this street last summer, and I was in Paris last summer, and then I went back in December, back in January, and I'm going back in October. The last 2 times I was there, I went straight there when I got off the plane. I took the metro straight there. Etienne Marcel. It's between Etienne Marcel and Les Halles. The metro stops.
Yeah.
And that street, Rue Montagoy, has got great cheese shops, great bread shops, great meat shops, great fish shops. And this place has been there for over 100 years, the Storer. It's incredible.
Fuck. Okay. All right. Because now I'm on the fence. I'm either going to Shanghai by myself or I'm taking my wife to Paris.
You should take Leanne to Paris. She's never been? She deserves it.
And I said to her, I said, I really want to go see, I said to her, I either want to go to Beijing, Singapore, or Europe. You know, I don't mind going to a place in Europe, but we got to go through.
You want to play with me in Paris in October?
I can't. I can only go. The only week I have off for the next 8 months is September. The second week of September, like September 5th, 6th, 7th.
Okay.
And so it's the only weekend I have off because everything else, I've either got something for my girls or something. This one's totally free. So I was like, maybe I'll take Leanne to Paris, or I'll go to Shanghai, or I'll go to Beijing. And Leanne's like, I wouldn't mind seeing the Great Wall of China. But the way she said it was almost like, eh. And then, but when I said Paris, she lit up.
Yeah.
Oh shit! That means I got to pick up my daughter.
You got to go.
Yeah.
Okay, and Tokyo, I hadn't been in 10 years.
Oh yeah, you didn't tell me about Tokyo.
I went last September, and I'm going to go back Thanksgiving week of this year. The gig there is amazing. It seats 100 people, and the food in Tokyo, just neighborhood ramen shops.
Oh,
it's not as expensive as you think it is.
I went to Tokyo. I've been to Tokyo once, really, and really traveled, and I loved it. I thought it was fucking amazing.
It's the Germany of Asia.
Yeah,
everything's clean and efficient.
The subways or the trains are silent. Like the streets are you get off the subway station and no one's talking. They're all just perfect. And then I went from there to Vietnam, and I was like, if no one's touching you in Tokyo, then they have their fingers in your mouth in Vietnam. That was my analogy.
Completely different. Can I plug some?
Please.
I think you would appreciate my schedule for the rest of the year.
Let's hear it. I'm dying to hear it. Yeah.
Okay. So, all Bertcast fans, please come out and support little Tommy Rhodes before I die drowning in Thailand the next time.
What a great story, Tom. What a great fucking story.
Okay, so August 22nd, I'm in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia at UB City Comedy Club. August 24th.
It would be great if it was called the Funny Shack.
It's funny. The Mongolian
Mongolian
slaughterhouse. August 24th, I'm in Beijing. August 25th, I'm in Shanghai. August 30th through September 2nd, I'm at West Nyack, New York. Have you done that? Is it Levity Live? Have you done that?
Yes.
It's a good room. I've never been there.
It's a great room. It's just very different than the UCB comedy room in Mongolia.
Yeah, I'll be coming from Shanghai to West Nyack, New York to do Levity Live. Is it Levity Live or Improv?
It's Levity Live. It's a great mall there.
Great. And then September 4th through the 9th, I'm at Zanies in Chicago. September 12th through 16th, I'm at Zanies in Rosemont. And then September 27th through the 30th, I'm at the Punchline in Atlanta.
God, you're fucking working.
October 4th, I'm in Porto, Portugal. October 5th, I'm in Lisbon, Portugal. October 12th and 13th, I'm in Paris, France. October 16th through 20th, I'm in Oslo, Norway. October 25th through 29th, I'm in Galway, Ireland, doing the Galway Comedy Festival. October 30th is Dublin. November 1st is Belfast. November 3rd is Berlin. November 8th to 11th, I'm at the Improv in Addison. I love how you love the contrast. November 12th through 18th, I'm at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club in Las Vegas. November, then like Thanksgiving week, I'm going to do Osaka and Tokyo. Tokyo might be like November 26, 27. I'm working that out now. And then November 29th through December 2nd, I'm at the Improv in Pittsburgh. And then December 10th through 17th, I'm doing this Israel tour. Have you ever done the Israel tour?
No, but I just heard they have an influx of crocodiles in the West Bank.
Yeah, I think there might be a war going on there by the time I go there.
But
anyway, so yeah, I'm doing Israel December 10th through the 17th, and then December 20th through the 22nd, I'm at the Improv in Orlando. I always do the Orlando Improv the week before Christmas.
What a fucking year.
That's a nice year, huh?
That's a fucking year.
And I've already done I already did that Asia tour in April and Paris in January, and yeah.
God damn, Tom, that's fucking...
I don't know why no one doesn't give me a comedy travel show.
I don't know you. I don't know. Well, I mean, I have a few reasons. I think that television, the scope of television would never be able to make something that Bourdain made now.
Yeah.
I do think there are media outlets that would. I think Vice would be something that would be great for you.
What about All Things Comedy?
I just having that conversation with Bertolina. By the way, he called me in the middle of this podcast. I just had this conversation with Bertolina, and we have a meeting next week. Me, him, Al, and Bill, and we're going to talk. But
I'm going to light up my Instagram. I'm going to film because I'm going out to the Mongolian countryside.
Here's what I think. Here's how I think you should utilize something like All Things Comedy when you're doing this tour. What you should get is a small like Canon G7X. It's like I think that's the name of it. It's a really small camera. It's point and shoot, but it shoots amazing footage. It really does. And if I were you, I would get 2 128 gigabyte cards, and I would fill them up, and I'd film a ton. Film your travel nuggets, film your information, film what you've read, like the stuff you do about samurai, film it all, and then give it to Mike and let him edit it into stuff that could go viral online. Because I think I know that you're not the kind of person that thinks film first, live second. I'm more that guy. Like I definitely go. Like I go do stuff and I go, oh, I should shoot this.
Well, I used to be obsessed with it because I made all these YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And I have an old great Canon camera that I used to use, and I would call it extended arm productions, because if you look at all the things, I'm like the shot is me extending my arm, going, hey, when you're in Beijing, there's this street with everything fried on a stick.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think that's how. I don't know. I'll call you. I'll call you before you take off. I'm going to talk to them. But I think there is things that I think would help increase your profile, help sell you tickets in all these places. I think who you sell a ticket to, in my opinion, are the people who happen to be living abroad in Mongolia, happen to be wanting to live abroad in Pittsburgh, listening to this and going, shit, what's the name of that fucking restaurant in Paris? Oh, fuck, I want to go scuba diving in Thailand. It's Ari Shafir. I mean, Ari has made it sexy, I think, to a large group of people that, like me and you, didn't access, you know? Like, I traveled, and I don't think people even knew or cared that I traveled, you know? But I think there's a way. I'll talk to you next week. So I'm talking with them beginning of next week, and but I would love to see, especially if you get one of their hot editors to jazz it up, make it sexy, give you an intro and an outro, and make 5-minute clips, 1-minute clips for you to put on your Instagram. I just think I'd love to follow you on this tour. I would love to track. Are you using Instagram stories at all?
Yeah, I mean, I just started.
I follow this guy, Adam Greentree, and he's doing a hunt an 8-day hunt in the outback of Australia, and I wake up, he's the only stories I'm really watching. I watch his story all day.
So why is it better to do a story than just post a video on Instagram? Or is it?
I think for me the videos are more bigger production, meaning like if I shoot something to promote a date, or if I shoot something funny, or if I'm going to edit a joke together, you know, and it's going to be a minute. The stories for me are a little quicker. I think people are more forgiving with them, and they go, "Oh, that was stupid," but it's just a story. It's not like sometimes if you post an Instagram post that maybe is stupid, people are like, "Fucking Jesus, Bert," you know.
But can you do the same, like post a story and the video on the Instagram?
If a story is good, sometimes what people will do, if a story is good, you can save those videos and edit them together, and then put them in your feed. So if a story is good, people will put them together and put it in their feed, and vice versa.
Because like that Vietnam motorcycle crash, I didn't put on a story. I just put it on the regular Instagram.
Well, I think that's an Instagram. I think that's definitely an Instagram post. But see, what I would do with that, I would definitely turn that into a promo video for my next time I was in Vietnam. Like I would definitely, I would, like when you're in Paris, I would definitely do a segment at stores and be like, "Hey guys, it's Tom. When I was on Bert Kreischer's podcast, he's reposting this for me, by the way. Thank you, Bert." Like just fuck around. And Bill Burr, who's also reposting this for me. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, and Bill was he talked about it on his podcast, and then he liked it so much he went back while he was in Paris.
Yeah.
And then he was saying on his podcast, "I'm not going to say the name because it's Rhodes's thing, and Rhodes found it." And then I got like
that's good though.
I got like 30. It was really nice of him to have that code of honor, but
yeah.
Then I had to answer 35 emails. Hey, what the fuck was the name of the place?
I think you definitely should do a segment there, and
I'm gonna film stuff. I'm definitely gonna enlighten the world with.
I think what would benefit you, as opposed to giving you a absolute blank canvas, was say Rachel, Mike, and myself and Bill and Al, and you all sat down and looked at your calendar and said, and almost like a pre-production meeting for you, going, "Hey, you're going here. Dude, shoot something at the stores. Just cover it. Fucking literally hose it down with footage. Do a couple of what you love about it. Talk to maybe someone that's going in there, and then give us that footage." And that's Paris. All right. You're going to Mongolia? Dude, gotta be something Genghis Khan. And you would very easily go, "Oh, it's this." And I think as a set of eyes from the outside of it going, this is what we'd be in. I can tell you I can tell you across the board what I'm interested in every little place. And so I think I could go, what about something like that? And then your wealth of knowledge, you'd be very easy to fill that in.
I've been to most of these cities. Like I've been to Beijing 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
I've been to Shanghai.
Dude, I was so excited to talk
times.
to you because I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to make my decision based on what Tom tells me. And I know me and you had talked about doing a travel podcast.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about it.
I know. It's just
I sent messages and never heard anything.
I think both our schedules were so fucking veering apart that we need to find a time where we're both in LA for like 2 weeks and then just gang shoot them and get All Things Comedy to produce them out and just gang shoot them and release them. And just release them once a week. Get to the place where we can shoot 25, take 25, and then we got half the year. And then wait till we have the next 2 weeks. You've traveled, I've traveled. But, dude, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. excuse me, is to talk travel with you.
It's one of my favorite things, dude. It inspires me. I told you, I got the bug. I'm itching. I need something for me where I can disappear and go out and stay out until fucking 4 a.m, walking around streets and put a lock on some fucking bridge. You know?
Yeah. Well, in Paris, I've done that. They stopped. They cut down all those locks off that bridge. Yeah, because it was too heavy for the structure.
Oh, for real?
But one of my favorite things when you fly to Paris and you land there, and Ashna and I, my wife, the first few days you're jet lagged, and so you're waking up in the middle of the night. And my wife's a photographer, so one of my favorite things in the world is to be jet lagged and up all night in Paris, and you're walking around. It's such a great city to walk around and take pictures of and stuff.
Fucking is.
It's great.
I'm gonna go pick up my daughter, dude. I love you. I can talk to you.
I love you so much, man.
Anytime you want a podcast, just call me.
Cool.
And let me know. I literally will move things around. You're such a fucking. I'm so excited for your next special. That story is one of the best stories I've heard.
Well, it's probably not going to happen until next year. So
we'll fast track it. Let's fast track it. Get it done.
All right, man. I love you, brother.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.
Long may you run.